Well, hello, students. Welcome to Fresh Brew. I am actually at home recording this. I've been working on grading some of your posts, and I know I had sent out an email earlier saying I would get to this later tonight. I just ran out of time in the office. So you get to see a little bit of my house there in the background. And yes, I do have a lot of books at my house too. So it's a little problem that I have. Um, in fact, I think there's even a name for hoarding too many books, and if I have a vice, that's definitely it's hard for me to let go of books. But anyway, enough about me. Welcome to Fresh Brew. We are just finishing up this module 2 and rolling into module 3. And I really enjoyed reading your discussion posts. I've chimed in on a few of them, and I have a few more to go, so I'll keep on grading those. But just as I was reading those and reading your journal reflections, a couple things stood out to me that I just wanted to talk about. And one was terminology. You guys had a nice discussion going about terminology and how you hadn't thought about some of the terms that we use in working with people who have substance use disorders and how it can be stigmatizing. And so I'm going to post a couple things, a couple pictures, a meme, and just a couple pictures that talk about what to use instead of stigmatizing language. So instead of saying somebody's an addict, right, you would say that they are a person who has a substance use disorder. Or, rather than a clean or dirty UA, that you say, that they have they have not tested positive for substances rather than clean or dirty. So that's kind of stigmatizing language. So it's things like that. And I really appreciate that some of you are challenging yourself and that you're also looking through some of your documentations and forms and things at your work to see if some things need to be replaced. So that was one thing that stood out. The other thing was the whole discussion about addiction being a brain disorder, a brain disease, and that is so true, and that you didn't realize the scope or severity of how complex that somebody who has this struggles with this issue, what it really all entails. And it does include a genetic piece, and it includes many other things. And in fact, I wanted just to read to you something from another source that I have, that there's many factors included in addiction. And one is obviously genes. So your genetic predisposition and your genetic makeup is one of those risk factors for a substance use disorder. Another one is mental illness. So this co-occurring idea that you're more at risk if you have a mental illness to abuse substances. And then early use of drugs. That's something that, we really look at being another risk factor. So I know a lot of you had put in there that, early exposure and repeated exposure, changes those pathways in your brain. And so that's one thing we look at. Social environment is another piece. So what is your social environment like? What are you kind of marinating in, if you will? What is your environment like? Does it support drug use, or does it discourage drug use or alcohol use? And then childhood trauma, is another risk factor that we look at. We know that childhood trauma really increases the chances of many, many things, and substance use is one of them, and becoming dependent on them. So that was an interesting discussion you had, just seeing addiction from multiple lenses. It's not just purely a brain disease, but it's also many other things. And then other people, sorry, my husband just came out. I was like, what is he talking about? Anyway, one person talked about that other people are responsible for your behavior if it is a brain disease. And that's something to think about. I think it's just like, are people responsible if they get cancer or any other kind of disease? Well, yes, there are behaviors that make it more likely that you're going to have that. But then there's also, that doesn't mean that you should be punished for it. And I think that's really where we get into the differences. There's consequences and you are responsible, but not to punish somebody for having the disease. We really are trying to correct the behaviors that come from the disease. So that was interesting. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, and this is in the Science of Addiction book, it talks about on page 12 the Surgeon General's report on facing addiction in the United States. And that is such a great report, and it defines substance use or addiction as a chronic disease of the brain that must be treated with urgency and compassion. And so that's really something that we really look at in terms of this whole shift in our paradigm. So, all right. Well, sorry for the distractions. I am at home, and I know you guys understand because you're the same way. Keep the great posts coming, and I will keep reading, keep grading, and I really look forward to reading your research papers. We have some great topics. So here we go. Fresh Brew. Cheers. Vikings, greatest NFL football team, there that we got, right? All right, I think that's enough for tonight. So have a great week, guys. I'm looking forward to Module 3. We're going to talk about marijuana, and we're going to have a debate. So should it be legalized? Should it not? What are your feelings on that? So we will see you online later. Bye-bye.